Enterprise is presented by WGBH Boston in co-production with Israel Broadcasting Authority Jerusalem. With grants from public television stations, the Dun & Bradstreet Corporation, providing business and information services worldwide. Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner & Smith Incorporated, a breed apart. Charles E. Culpeper Foundation, and the Gates Foundation.
I don't want you to tell me how not to do business, okay? Because this is easy. Now, this is important. This is, management credibility.
This is an exhibition of the latest in radiological equipment. Among the dozens of companies in this multi-billion-dollar market, a small Israeli firm is trying to outmaneuver its larger and richer competitors. This week on Enterprise, the $1 Million Scam.
I'm Eric Severide. In this era of future shock, a company may have to stay in the vanguard of scientific innovation just to survive. As the Queen of Hearts told Alice, it takes all the running you can do just to keep in the same place. For the high-tech companies that sell medical diagnostic equipment, the race is especially frantic. And since the U.S. is the world's largest medical market, all the competitors must come here. This week on Enterprise, we'll follow an innovative Israeli-based multinational company as it struggles to market a revolutionary device called an NMR scanner, which produces images like these. Though the company entered the race late, it's still going all out to win in spite of the heavy odds against it. As the Queen of Hearts pointed out, if you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that.
Tel Aviv, Israel. A worker has just fallen from a scaffold. To save his life, these doctors must determine precisely the damage to his brain. Just a few years ago, this would have been next to impossible. Today, it can be done with a $600,000 hybrid form of computer and X-ray called the CAT scanner.
The bone fragment is related to his severe trauma, and he unfortunately remained comatose.
The better the diagnosis, the better the chances for effective treatment. This CAT scanner was developed here in Israel by Elscint, an Israeli multinational specializing in medical imaging, far from the world's high-tech centers. But Israel is too small a market for Elscint's products. Dr. Abraham Suhami, the company's president and founder, is courting a group of West German clients on a tour of Elscint's plant in the Galilee. The Germans have come to buy a new scanner, which Elscint hopes to demonstrate in 2 days. Suhami, a nuclear physics professor turned businessman, built Elscint into a $300 million company in 15 years, a commercial and engineering triumph.
Not only for a show, it really works.
The Germans, who have bought Elscint's products in the past, know that the company has a very good track record. It has grown 35% a year and has established itself in the forefront of medical technology.
The advantage is that by using the same memory and display systems, we can play the images from one instrument to another.
Elscint took all the imaging techniques from X-rays to ultrasound and married them to sophisticated data processing, display, and control modules. This gave the company a tremendous flexibility in devising new equipment.
That was our first scan.
That's
Before
historical,
that
it's
yes.
historical.
And I remember we showed that in 1972 in the Society of Nuclear Medicine in the United States. And they called it the Israeli tank because it looked like a tank. It's a sturdy mechanical machine and it works hard.
But the visitors haven't come for a lesson in Elscint history. They are shopping around for the world's most advanced piece of medical equipment. It's called NMR, and it costs $1.5 million. It's supposed to revolutionize the entire field of diagnostic imaging by revealing internal tissues without the use of dangerous ionizing radiation emitted by X-rays. But Elscint's NMR is not working yet, and the nerves of the company's scientists are frayed.
יש מרחק מפה לפה.
תלוי שמרחק הוא 9 מילימטר או 10, אבל לא מילימטר וחצי.
בסדר,
זה לא מרחק של מילימטר וחצי.
Somebody told me that maybe there is a chance that you come tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Where is that?
The NMR clinic should have been working 3 weeks ago. That's why the Germans have come. But the clinic still isn't ready. Elscint will lose this sale because of it. And it can't afford to lose many more. The NMR project has been late from the start. Initially, Suhami refused to listen to Dan Inbar, a former student of his who became Elscint's head of research and development. Inbar had pushed for research of the NMR before American research teams announced their findings.
Won't get the early warning you need. I mean, the moment you see it in the New York Times, it's always too late. Like we saw it in the New York Times, I think, in 81 or 82. It's too late.
The name of the game is utilization of resources intelligently. Everyone has limited resources. IBM has limited resources, Elscint has limited resources.
Look, Avram, I'm not against...
Delaying the development of the NMR was Suhami's mistake, putting Elscint behind the competition.
Everyone makes mistakes, and chief executive officers makes the largest mistakes, you know. The company might have started the project earlier.
Inbar won the argument and got himself an impossible job, to catch up with the rest of the pack after such a late start. He recruited 2 top Israeli scientists to help him. Yochanan Lebanon, a former Israeli Air Force pilot and electronic systems engineer, and Zvi Kamil, an electronic engineer who was awarded the Israeli Prize for Technological Defense Efforts.
הביזנס צריך להחזיק להיאחז בציפורניים לרוץ איתו.
הוא כאין וכאפס לעומת הצרות והבעיות שעמדנו לפני שנה. מה, אנשים לא היו לכם, ומגנט לא היה לכם,
מעבדה לא הייתה לכם.
ו-NMR לא ידעתם.
חבר'ה, יצאה תמונת ראש ממש טובה.
As most of the world's NMR research was secret, Elscint had to create an NMR prototype utilizing the following scientific principles. Different body tissues contain water in different quantities. In the brain, the white tissues contain more water than the gray ones. Water contains hydrogen nuclei, which behave like tiny magnetic compasses. When a magnetic force is applied, they align themselves along its direction. A radio wave is now broadcast. The hydrogen nucleus rotates and tips. When the radiation stops, the hydrogen nucleus returns to its initial position, while becoming itself a source of radio wave radiation. More hydrogen nuclei transmit more radiation. When received and processed, a map of the different structures can be drawn. Here, near Tel Aviv, Elscint turned theory into practice. In a specially adapted structure, it placed a huge magnet bought in Oxford, England. 10 months after the project was launched, there came a breakthrough. In March 1983, Elscint achieves its first NMR image. But this scientific achievement is just the first step. The real test will be in the marketplace. The U.S. is the world's largest market for medical equipment, and Elscint does 50% of its business here. But the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, will have to approve Elscint's NMR before it can be commercially marketed in the U.S. Dr. Israel Barnier has just returned to Israel from Washington to report on his meeting with FDA officials.
They gave me first time a specific question: when do we intend to submit our application?
By November?
And I was at the moment on a spot, but I had no choice. I told them.
Forget apologizing, damn it. Tell it the way we intend to do, and that's how we intend to do. We are going to submit by 15th of November.
Suhami is pushing his staff hard. He wants to apply for FDA approval before the crucial Chicago exhibition. But the NMR isn't ready.
We have still problems.
And his marketing staff is doubtful.
Do you commit yourselves to finish it?
Let me put
Is
it.
R&D committing?
Can you give me day zero to start?
You're using the wrong words, and they don't have problems. They have questions to be addressed. Right? So what are the open questions?
The main thing that is lacking in this point in time, I think, is real clinical data.
No. Once we make a commitment to give them data at a certain time, we have to meet that commitment.
So we have to work the many shifts, 3 shifts maybe, I don't know.
Forget shifts.
Everybody
We have 20 working days. 20 working days. So you need 8 patients a day to arrive to 100.
200.
No, you don't need 200. You don't need.
It's finally decided that tests on 150 patients will be enough for FDA approval, and that the NMR will be presented in Chicago in 2 months.
זה mission impossible. אני אומר לך, מצוין שיש בצוות 2 בחורים דתיים, כי אחרת אלוהים לא היה עוזר לנו. זה ממש ככה.
Volunteers are tested for clinical data. The procedures are only now being developed, so work goes slowly. For the volunteer, there's the rare opportunity to see an image of one's brain. In this case, a reassuringly healthy one. As pressure mounts, Elscint managers and scientists volunteer to test one of the FDA requirements. Dan Inbar, head of research and development, takes the perilous part. In an emergency, patients must be moved, since life-saving medical equipment cannot be used within the NMR's magnetic field. Another procedure required by the FDA is the total shutdown of the magnet, to be tested many miles away. Oxford, England is the center of scientific research on magnets. Much of it was initiated at Oxford University. That research has been put to use by Oxford Instruments, a British company which supplied Elscint with its first magnet. The firm completely dominates the production of large magnets needed for the NMR. A few miles away, Elscint has established its own magnet plant. By drawing heavily on local expertise, it has assured itself a steady supply of magnets. Zvi Camille has come here to test the shutdown procedure, called a quench. The test should satisfy the FDA.
Up to about, what, 100 volts?
It was 100 volts.
I think it's going to go quite soon.
100 volts.
There it goes.
Within seconds, 140 liters of liquid helium are vaporized and the magnet is shut down. But other problems remain. Elscint is in a sensitive position here, an Israeli firm on British soil, employing British workers almost exclusively. Elscint has no choice but to build its factory here. Magnet making is tricky and expensive, and even the winding of the magnet coil is a highly specialized task. The competition over skilled labor has strained the company's relationship with Oxford Instruments. The Oxford-Elscint relationship is further complicated by the Israeli company's dual role as client and competitor. Oxford executive Dr. Paul Wilson accompanies Zvi Camille to a local pub.
For French stick things. Yeah.
Wilson's company is clearly concerned with Elscint's invasion of its territory.
So I think we have some major concerns about whether it is going to be possible for us to maintain a long-term trading relationship and also to maintain a certain degree of confidentiality. And of course we've come up with some suggestions which we think should be acceptable, which are that we identify a number of key employees. I think if we can identify those, and both parties can agree that neither side would approach the other's staff offering unnecessary inducements.
A lot of people from Oxford Instruments are really coming over. We don't accept them.
The flow of information has only been one way so far. And I think what we have to stress is that we're not posing ourselves as probably something of a sort of a rather soft, amenable, malleable British philosophical company. I think what we're saying basically is we'll be pretty hard-nosed about things.
The competition in medical technology is growing more fierce each day. Dr. Reuven Sinai, vice president of Elscint and a former professor at Hebrew University, knows that an Israeli company has to combat its country's image as a place of war and rampant inflation. Elscint's solution is to assure customers a steady supply of equipment and service by establishing plants abroad. Here in Paris, Elscint makes the cameras that will transfer computerized images to film. With the Chicago exhibition only a few weeks away, Dr. Sinai must get the French to work much faster.
La question du délai de temps, c'est très important. D'après moi, vous êtes en retard, monsieur Uriel.
Oui, nous avons eu pas mal de problèmes avec, ou quelques petits problèmes avec l'appareil précédent.
Vous aurez les premières machines pendant le 4e trimestre. Moi, à RSN, je vais promettre ça aux clients. Alors,
3 mois après, oui.
Quoi, 3 mois après?
Que partout dans le monde, Elscint en totalité dans le monde entier a vendu moins de Dynex que nous avons vendu en France. Eh bien, nous avons fait la
Vendre en France, je peux vous comprendre que vous n'avez pas de problème. Parce que vous êtes ici.
Oui, mais donc,
le problème, c'est de vendre dans les États-Unis.
Non, c'est pas un problème.
But it is here in Israel that the race to complete the FDA application becomes frenzied. Elscint desperately needs more test cases, but patients are hard to find. Some are recruited from local hospitals, which can use the kind of information the NMR can provide. Now, there is no doubt the equipment works well, with sometimes painfully accurate results. Everything is moving too slowly. 10 days before the submission date, the company is far short of the 150 cases needed for FDA submission.
When you feel that you established your case, you submit your application. הם לא נקבו מספר, הם אמרו כשתרגישו את זה.
ואני in good faith חושב שאנחנו יכולים להגיד ש-if we think that is reasonably supported by clinical evidence, שאנחנו נגיש את הדבר הזה.
זה לא כל כך רלוונטי. עכשיו, על 150 אין מה לדבר. אני מבין שלא נחליט עכשיו שזה לא מספיק, אז לא נלך. הרי נלך לזה ממילא. נלך לפימל. זאת אומרת, נלך עם מה שיש לנו, בכל מקרה.
הצלחתי להגיע, ועתי אתמול עד אמצע הלילה. לא...
Oh, 7 days remain. A joint Israeli-American team prepares the documentation for the FDA.
Sorry. אז אפשר לסגור שהדדליין זה יום רביעי, כי אני שולח את זה באקספרס לבוסטון, זה ביום חמישי אצלך בצהריים.
לא, היו כאלה שיפסו הרבה, אל תדאג לך. אבל הנקודה...
This one is very special. We should mark it and take it.
So we are in good shape here.
No, we're in perfect shape. We are in perfect shape, yes.
We're in good shape, so I'm surprised.
You are surprised.
Elscint's American headquarters in Boston. The latest NMR test results have just arrived here from Israel. Elscint should be ready to submit its NMR application tomorrow morning. But there is a hitch. The company doesn't have 150 cases. In a crucial meeting with Elscint's legal counsel, Lori Nan-Kay, Sinai suggests they file but limit the application for the time being to imaging of the brain.
I don't want to say it's a tragedy. I have only brain cases. Now, when I say 150 for a universal machine, meaning legs, abdomen, head, limbs, and so on and so forth, forcefully, this means that for each organ I will have less.
I agree. Our goal is the same. We both work for the company. We both want the project to succeed.
Yeah, okay, don't sell
But-
me this. I understand that, God always
So we
want
have-
to the welfare of the humanity. That's for
We
sure.
have to work together to try to find the best way that we will be
I
successful.
will explain you what I think. I want you to tell me, within the framework of the law, how can I interpret the law? I assign to you this function in order to do what we want to do.
I can't tell you not to submit. That has to be a business decision.
Okay.
I can't tell you that you can't make an argument that 30 studies is enough for the brain. You may be doing that in good faith. However, you must think of how it will be viewed by two groups of people. Number one, the government, and number two, the public.
That can be a disappointment for the people. I'm disappointed. The public may be disappointed.
But
That's
even
the
with
point.
the disappointment, you have to decide if the risk is too big to
Right,
take.
right.
I can't make that decision for you.
סוחמי, בקשר להגשה של ה-PMA.
The final decision is a difficult one. Elscint will not file its application tomorrow. November 13th, the world's largest exhibition of radiological equipment opens its doors. The competition begins. The wares of a $4 billion industry are on display here, and the NMR is the hottest item on the floor.
1983 RSNA and to the Phillips Theater. Clearly, nuclear magnetic resonance is the technology of the future.
We can be one of the leaders in this field over the next 10 years.
And we know how to do that well.
We have already submitted our application for pre-market approval, as it's called. We hope that by the next 6 to 9 months, we will receive from the FDA our approval to do commercial marketing.
Elscint's failure to apply to the FDA has kept it behind, but not out of the race.
We have images that are comparable to any images.
It can still sell its system for research and development use, but the delay in application won't help sales.
In this image.
Why don't you?
The NMR activity of Elscint began in June '82.
What was supposed to be a festive directors' meeting in a nearby hotel becomes one of anger and frustration.
In October,
Don't try to get here decision. You have tried several times to do that with me. Don't try to do that with the board of directors.
we are
all right?
now out of space because we don't
Listen,
have.
Aaron, no one wants to minimize
Yes.
the huge difficulties that you have before you.
But there are decisions that has to be made here. I need the space.
That is not making decisions here. all right?
The worst news is the postponement of the FDA submission.
Almost finished everything in writing, but I don't think we have enough. Maybe you'll.
We have decided, there was a telephone conference on a decision about the PMA approval. We had to submit the application by the RSNA last Thursday. Unfortunately, we came to
Listen.
To recover from its setback, Elscint decides to change the rules of the game. They devise a new price strategy that will stun customers and competition alike. Elscint's booth becomes a center of activity. The company is now offering its NMR for less than $1 million, completely undercutting the competition.
When it's available for sale in the U.S., after FDA approves it, will be $1,400,000.
The cost is $1.5 million.
It will be of the order of $2 million once it's available for commercial distribution.
any impact already on this price?
There's been a very, very positive response so far from the few people that have been by this morning. A lot of people are coming in and seeing, and it certainly is getting an awful lot of attention.
How can Elscint charge so much less? Partly because it's willing to take a smaller profit to stay in the race, and partly because its costs are lower. It produces its own magnets and uses modified parts from its other products.
We can get down into the eyes. I've seen ones
The company seems to be convincing customers that not only is the price good, but also the system.
We're pulsing the system to get new information.
But you wouldn't lose all 20?
No.
Some customers who have dealt with Elscint before move quickly, realizing that the price will go up dramatically once the company gets FDA approval. They put in their orders now.
These estimates are, I think,
Well, here,
very high.
well, this, I think, as far as the maintenance is concerned, you see the first year.
I'm the chairman of Elscint.
Well, very pleased to meet you, sir.
And founder, too.
Indeed.
So glad to have your order.
Great.
I want to have it in the contract that we know that we're looking for March.
Last year, the company's shares sold over the counter went down, partly because of the delay in marketing the NMR. The new strategy may even help to boost the price of Elscint stock.
What I'm saying is that we have a strong belief that
These industry analysts are here to take the company's pulse. This is Suhami's best chance to convince them of Elscint's help, but some are skeptical.
One of the companies said that your ability to save helium at the rate that you profess that you're able to save is a physical impossibility. I think those were his exact words. Could you share with us?
he has only to pay $75,000 and buy one. That's easy. I will gladly sell one.
Other analysts are true believers.
Well, NMR is going to be the big story, and I think that the FDA and the government will see the efficacy of NMR, and Elscint will be a major player in this game. There's going to be a lot of dropouts, but Elscint is a definite survivor, and a lot of the future is going to be dependent upon their ability to penetrate the market with NMR, which I'm very confident they're going to be able to.
I tell you something. I'm sick of customers that are interested. Do we have orders?
We're getting them, yes.
At the banquet held by Elscint, the harpist plays Sunrise, Sunset. But today, Suhami and his team see only the sunrise. In February 1984, 3 months after the exhibition, Elscint finally submits its application to the FDA. For Elscint, flexibility was the key to survival. When it made a mistake, it was able to correct it on the run, the only way for a small company to make it in a rapidly changing marketplace. When you're small, you had better learn some fancy footwork.
This program was a co-production of WGBH Boston and Israel Broadcasting Authority Jerusalem, which are solely responsible for its content. Enterprise is made possible by grants from public television stations. The Dun & Bradstreet Corporation, providing business and information services worldwide. Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner & Smith Incorporated, a breed apart. Charles E. Culpeper Foundation. And the Gates Foundation.